Okay, guys, we're going to get started. I'm Anna Swartz, the Alumni Liaison and Faculty Administrative Assistant for the School of Management. We have three great panelists here to talk to you about their career and college experience. Felicee Murchison, she's a current MBA student here, graduated in winter 2022. She graduated with her BBA from Ferris State. She works for Avancez Assembly as an HR Generalist intern. Michael Holser, he is the Director of Global Talent Management at Domino's Pizza, headquartered in Ann Arbor. His team is responsible for talent planning programs, talent reviews, succession planning, workforce planning, performance management, talent philosophy, employee experience, and organizational effectiveness. Michael earned both his BBA and MBA from the University of Michigan-Flint. And our final panelist is Tim Kubik. He graduated from UM-Flint in 2008 with a BBA in high distinction with a concentration in finance. He was Chief Justice of the UM-Flint Judicial Board, as well as the Angel Scholar and recipient of the Amazing Blue Award. He is now a partner at the Novara law firm in Troy, where he works as a trial lawyer representing national insurance carriers. Okay, we'll start with you, Felicee. If you want to, do you have any advice you would like to provide students as they approach graduation and prepare for future careers?
Absolutely. There are, we can spend all day talking about what I would give you as far as advice, but if I can narrow it down to maybe a couple things, I would say is that you're going to make mistakes, but you have to give yourself the grace to learn, to apply, and then to move on. So no one starts off perfectly in their career. This is an opportunity to learn and, in addition to your didactic work, but just to learn kind of how to navigate in the actual field and how to apply those skills that you acquired in the actual classroom setting. Additionally, you want to be open and honest with your team. I want to stress the fact that humility will take you further than pride. So don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it, because that's really what teamwork is all about. So definitely be open and be honest.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I would agree with a lot of what Felicee just said as well, too. I think the biggest thing that I could give advice is, look, be open-minded to where the journey might take you, right? And that just what opportunities kind of present themselves. Sometimes that opportunity that you get maybe isn't always the thing you had in mind, but it's where that path and that journey can take you. Because I can tell you that I had no idea that my path would lead me to where I'm at today when I first started out my career. So I think just being open-minded to the journey and not being afraid to make mistakes. I mean, that's part of just growing and developing in life and in a work career. So that's the biggest thing I would, kind of say for just advice there.
Great. Tim?
Good morning, everybody. And I want to echo what Mike and Felicee both just said. I mean, you should push yourself, and honestly, your goals should scare you. I know that's something we've probably all heard, but I've absolutely found that to be the case. If you set goals for yourself that you think are attainable, that's only ever going to get you so far. And I think the really big things in life that you look back and I'm only 33, but my biggest successes that I look back on already were things that absolutely scared the daylights out of me. So I would just encourage you to take leaps, to cast a wide net when you're considering what where you might want to live, what you might want to do, and have your parameters of things that you care about, but don't be afraid to step outside that comfort zone, because that's where the really big payoffs are. The other thing, going back to what we said early on, attitude takes you so much further than talent. I mean, there's obviously the people that have otherworldly talent, and those people have great success. But by and large, in most companies, the people that everyone respects, the people that get promoted, are not always the most gifted people, but they're the people that show loyalty to their superiors, grace the people below them, that are easy to work with. And that's something I learned at UM-Flint, working in a team environment, learning how to pull your weight, and maybe even to cover for people when they when they drop the ball, you're going to gain their respect and appreciation. So learning how to work with other people, particularly now, it's even more challenging as the world goes, more into the internet. Obviously, we're doing this on Zoom rather than in person, but building those skills and interpersonal skills will take you a very long way.
Thank you. Felicee, what were some helpful resources you used on campus, or with being a current MBA student, are you using any resources that we offer here?
I guess the accurate question is, what resources am I not using? So I kind of touch bases with a lot of the different resources that are available at U of M. So I've used the actual writing center for a few of my deliverables. They were very pivotal to the success of some of my coursework. Additionally, I have utilized the Rosetta Stone resource, which is actually free for MBA students, which afforded me the chance to kind of expand on my Spanish, my Espanol. And then additionally, I use the wonderful academic advisors and Antonio Riggs and Anna, and I always get the two Annas mixed up, and Craig, and all those different resources I have used, and I would definitely recommend everybody to reach out to those resources because they will definitely be paramount to your success.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, it's been a little bit obviously since I've been there. So I know there's been a lot of additional investments made in resources probably that exist today that I didn't have necessarily. But I think the biggest thing that I took advantage back then was, just the career counselors and that, really kind of being open-minded to pointing me in the right directions for whether it be career fairs or networking with companies that were going to be on site and coming into certain classrooms and things like that. I think that helped me just to be able to start building that network that I have today. And I would encourage anyone that when you have those opportunities, take advantage of them. Because I know as an employer, I have hired people from going to those events in the past. So you never know what opportunity is going to present itself. And I think, just being connected in, especially with the career counseling center, that's the best spot that I've always seen kind of in being able to kind of bridge some of those connections that maybe you wouldn't have necessarily had or knew of.
Yep. For those students that are viewing, that would be Antonio Riggs. You probably get some emails from him. He's on the call right now, so he's a great resource. Tim?
Well, I would just say the biggest thing that I utilized was actually the professors, and one's on this call. Francine was my business law professor, and that's why I went to UM-Flint, and it's why I didn't transfer. Obviously, the secret I think of UM-Flint is just how great the professors are. You have access to a knowledge base with them that you just don't get a lot of other places. So, virtually everyone that I took a class with was open to talk. We would go to lunch sometimes. I mean, having those connections with people that are so gifted and respected in their field and so knowledgeable is a massive benefit that I felt like other classmates of mine didn't fully take advantage of. And having those professors, building that relationship and having them in your corner as you start your career is tremendous.
Anna, can I jump in to say,
Yeah.
that in 15, 20 years of teaching, you're listening to my top students speak, and yet I can't give him a grade, so he must be telling the truth.
Okay, Felicee, what advice would you give a student interested in your career field?
The advice I would say is to be bold and never be afraid to put yourself out there. I think having the U of M backing, it causes you to straighten your back up a little bit. I graduated with honors from Ferris State University, and it's a wonderful university and educational institution. However, U of M's education is second to none. So it gives you like this automatic boldness. I'm going to come in, I'm going to conquer this. Don't be afraid again to make those mistakes. I'm looking at some notes. Oh, if you make a conscious effort to succeed, then no matter the task, then you will stay on top. You have to endure and you have to stick together. So my experience in the MBA program is quite unorthodox, as we know, due to the COVID pandemic. but I have to vouch and say, yes, the professors have been absolutely incredible, like incredible. And they have helped us navigate through even the toughest moments with an understanding approach. So if I would tell you in that regard, it's just really just dig your heels into the U of M program. It's going to prepare you for whatever that may come your way. So really just try to take away the big key points in each individual class, and it will prepare you for whether you're in human resources, whether you're in business, whether you're in finance. I think that, just be bold.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your internship or what you're doing there?
Oh my heavens. Yes. So just a little bit of background. I spent nearly 15 years in the healthcare field, X-ray, CAT scan, special procedures, all the way to the cath lab. So then I decided to hit reset on my life and go back to school to obtain my MBA. Mr. Riggs he can probably vouch for me. I've been looking for internships here and there, got a couple hits there. And I'm thinking like, well, no, I'm not sure about that culture because culture is really big. So then when I was actually approached by Avancez Assemblies to come on board as an HR intern, I just thought, wow, this should be pretty easy. I'm not putting a stent in someone's heart. I don't have to do CPR. Wonderful. One thing I did not know is that as an HR generalist, you are touching everything. So I've gotten experience in FMLA, short-term disability. I've done interviews, orientation. I've done presentations for the actual organization abroad. I'm working on diversity and inclusion. So given this HR generalist intern has really exposed me to HR as a whole versus being an HR professional who solely focuses on leave or who solely focuses on onboarding. I've had the opportunity to actually touch on this, touch on that. So for me, it was said earlier, I cast a wide net. If they ask me to do something, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it with a smile and I'm going to dominate because I have the U of M education to support me.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, so most of my career has been on the human resources side, so I can relate to Felicee what you're kind of going through there. The thing that I would, I guess, kind of recommend if somebody wanted to get into kind of HR is I've always said that I work in HR, but I'm a business professional, and so I think any company that you move into, learn about the business, like how does it make money, or how what are the goals that you're trying to set out and accomplish, because I think sometimes at least in human resources, we kind of get a little bit of a, people don't really know what we do, or they just think that we're the people and we handle just employee relations issues or just those types of leave things. But, ultimately, people is your most important asset in most organizations. Like if you don't have people, you're not able to do the things you want to kind of accomplish. And so understanding how the business makes money, how all those things work together, that's going to, have you kind of stand out if that was, an area that you wanted to get into. And I think that's what I've always tried to do in any organization that I've moved into, is learn the business first. And that's just going to make you a better professional overall.
Thank you. Tim?
Yeah, I would echo what both just said. I mean, we always hear fake it till you make it. And it's surprising how many people, once you get out there, you'll realize most of them are still faking it. So attack what you're doing with confidence. I can tell you this for a fact. The education that you're getting at U of M-Flint does set you apart from the vast majority of your peers. So you can rely on that. You can have confidence in that. That should give you a little bit of a psychological edge or a boost when you're going through your job. And the other thing, like Mike was saying, the people at my firm that have had success are ones that have gone, have made an attempt to broaden their knowledge base about the company itself. So people that stay in their lane, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But having that curiosity to know more about what drives the company, what drives its profitability, things that can be improved on. There's always something you can learn that will still make your job, make you better at your job, make your job a little easier. So have that curiosity about other aspects of whatever company that you end up with.
Thank you. Sydney, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you have a question for Tim, and I don't want I want to make sure you're able to ask the right way.
Hi, Tim. Nice to
How's it
find you.
going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So, as a undergraduate student and thinking of going into law, and when you're studying, what would be a better way to understand people's situations they are going through, or being proactive when you're applying, or proactive when you're trying to apply for internships for?
So is your question about, how to prepare for an interview, or am I understanding?
I think it might be like using the business degree in a non-traditional way. And since you're a lawyer, would that be right, Sydney?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and that's kind of what I was getting at just a second ago. There's so many lawyers that don't understand anything about business. They just focus on, working up the case and different things. And we have, this is a common problem in our firm, is when a case is resolved, it's the lawyer's responsibility to send an email to the billing department and say, hey, this case has been closed, it's wrapped up, send the bill to the client for payment. And, in audits, 80% of the attorneys had, a low grade in doing that, because they're so focused on their task and, actually litigating. They forget that we're a firm, we're a business, we're here to make money, and you have to keep that in mind. So I think my number one, I always tell people the best thing you can do to be a lawyer isn't political science, it's business, because law is ultimately a business. And if you have that background, that affects, you've taken human resources classes, right? So you understand how to interact and deal with situations that, might arise due to interpersonal differences. You understand money, how money works, the time value of money. If you're settling a case, right? Money that you get in the door now is worth more than that same amount of money a year from now because of present value and interest, things like that. So utilizing a business degree in virtually any business is going to set you apart. But in particular, I think in law, it's a great advantage because so few people come from a business background. In fact, I think I'm one of 2 or 3 people in my whole firm, which is very large, that have a business degree. I don't know if that answered your question. I don't know. I hope it did.
It did. And I had, she's on the call right now. I had Miss Kalari for business law, and she really wanted me to become I actually, seeing through her class, maybe become a lawyer.
I'm glad to hear that. I was certainly considering it, being a lawyer. I loved business school. I really wanted to go into business. I kind of was going back and forth, and I'm where you were when I took Francine's class. That was, the catalyst that put me over the edge and made me confident that was the right path for me. So I'm glad to hear that from you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, Felicee, what are some do's and don'ts of resume writing, interviewing, and do you have recommendations on questions to ask that company you're interviewing for?
There we go. Yes, actually, I actually have a hiring event Friday. The first thing, I had one 2 Fridays ago. I scheduled 22 individuals for interviews. Only 6 showed up. Unfortunately, I didn't hear, obviously, from those that didn't. So make sure, if I could, give you some advice on the interviewing process, I would say, everybody should know this, but make sure you're in a quiet and secluded area. I had to ask someone to turn their radio down. I mean, they were jamming, but we are on an interview. And so obviously getting used to this new way of doing things, a lot of things are not face-to-face. So we have to do Zoom interviews, and sometimes we will do over the phone interviews. So given the cards that were dealt, just make sure in a quiet and secluded area, be nice. I had someone that I had called to do an actual over the phone interview. He did not recognize who I was. And he was very rude and he was very nasty. Then when I proceeded to tell him who I was, boom, he became the nicest person ever. However, I already saw the true person and that he was. Obviously, with resumes, I'm a part of the LinkedIn family. And something that I've learned is that when you are filling out a resume, and from a human resources perspective, I don't look at every grammatical mistake. I look at if this person has the transferable skills and the soft skills that we need to be able to train this person. So no matter if your resume matches exactly what it is that you're applying for, still apply and make sure you just kind of highlight those, like I said, those skills that you can utilize no matter the career field of choice.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, kind of similar. I think for resumes, I agree. I think trying to make it as tailored to the job that you're applying for as possible. But I know also too, sometimes you're applying for a lot of different jobs. So trying to have a resume for 50 different opportunities is hard to do, and you don't want to create 50 different ones as well. So trying to find that right balance. And I think trying to keep it as to the point as possible. Sometimes I know people will like to put a lot of different bullet points, but you're really wanting to put on there, like, what are the key highlights you had in past roles? What are the skills that are and experiences you've had that are tailored to that role that you're applying to? And then I think during interviewing, the biggest things there is, I think, just best practice is try to have, you're probably going to have behavioral based interview questions that an employer is going to ask you. And so I always tell people, like, try to have your 3 to 5, kind of go-to experiences, whether it be from a past job or, experience at college, that you can kind of go to around, like, what's a challenging situation you had to overcome? What's a time you didn't have all the resources to accomplish something? You had a roadblock. Like, think about those and have them kind of written down that you have go-to. And I think that the right format there's a lot of different, tactics that you'll hear the STAR approach. So situation, task, action, and result. As you're thinking about going through and explaining that, I always tell people, have it written down, right? Like, we're doing a lot of things virtually. That's okay. That's not a bad thing to have some of those things that it shows that you prepared. So I think that's always a good thing. And then, as you're going to the interview as well, do your research on the company and the people that you're interviewing with. It shocks me still to this day on how many people don't do that, and don't understand what they're signing up for, or any information about the organization. And so just do that stuff, because you might think that it's common sense and that you should just do it, but a lot of times you'll actually stand out because there's a lot of people that don't.
Anna, can I add something?
Yep.
The rest of you, I don't like to, I like to talk, but I also am a U of M MBA alum. So this is what I think is very important. You get a job interview, you send your application in, you get a call for a job interview, you took another job, you don't want the job, you're tired, whatever. Let the person know, just common courtesy, because you never know when that person is going to be interviewing you later, or when that person can help you later. That's number one. Number two, whether you get the job or not, send a thank you note. Thank you for considering me. I'm sorry I didn't get the job. I hope there'll be something at your place in the future for me. The first thing your interviewer is going to think, did I hire the wrong person? This is a really mannered person. So always send a thank you no matter what, and always keep appointments or let them know that you can't make it. You don't have to necessarily give them a reason, but I think those are so important. And usually you're not told those things, but they can carry forward. When Mr. Holser, my colleague, graduate, when he's being polite enough to offer you an interview, don't let him down at the far end.
Thank you, Francine. Tim?
Yeah, I mean, never burn a bridge. It's amazing how often, Michigan there's 10 million people here. It's amazing how often you'll run across people, in your industry, over and over again. People move, they get promoted, they change jobs. you're going to see some people again, and you want to be glad when you do. You want to think, shoot, and flash back to the thank you note you didn't send, the interview you ghosted, you know, the Jay-Z you had playing loudly in the background during an interview. Like, just be the guy that, you know, it takes the high road and has integrity, because like Francine was saying, the little things go a long way. People notice them. People notice, like Mike was saying, it's easy to see that, you know, the more people you interview, they see effort, they notice effort, the little things, that the research that you've done, the way you've tailored your resume. You may not realize it, but it really, really jumps out. So taking the extra time to do the preparation, to put that effort in, gives you a leg up. There's no question.
Thank you. Felicee, do you have any professional failures you'd like to share with us and how you overcame them?
Well, yes. Currently I kind of fresh in this experience with the HR, but I will say in my previous professional experience is just being too hard on myself. And for an employer, that's almost a turnoff. We all make mistakes, and I'm sure our bosses, our CEOs, and our leaders alike have been in our shoes, so they understand more than we actually think and admit that they do. So I've had times when I would just like burst out crying and like, what is going on? You just didn't capitalize the I. And I'm like, but I should know that. So I would say just give yourself the grace to, like we said, learn and, put yourself out there. And, so one failure is I was just way, way too hard and unforgiving of myself.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, kind of similar to that as well too. I think just know you're going to make mistakes and that it's not the end of the world when they happen, right? Because I know that there's been times in my career, like I can think back early on, I'd applied for a role within one of the companies early in my career, an internal move, and I thought I knew everything about it, so didn't do as much preparation as I would do now. And completely bombed the interview. Like it honestly, like I could put that as an example of what not to do in some, like, it was awful. But, and I felt awful afterwards, didn't get the job, rightfully so. But it was actually one of the best things that ever happened to me, because it made me realize, like, you are not just going to get by on just what you've done in the past. Like, you've got to prepare, like it's something new every day. And so that has helped me going forward, where I've never made that mistake again. And so I think, be aware you're going to make mistakes, you're going to have failures, but you got to just, what do you learn from them and how do you make yourself better? Like, that's the important thing kind of going forward. So I hope I probably none of you are going to bomb like I did in that interview before, but again, like I learned so much from it. And that's just, I think you're going to have those experiences in different ways, but just know it going in and just, know that you can be better coming out of it. You just gotta, what do you learn from it and take from it?
Thank you. Tim?
I feel like I've used a lot of cliches so far today, but I like cliches. I think they exist for a reason. But they always say you learn more from your success or your failures than your successes, and that's been very true for me, particularly as a trial lawyer. Preparation is the one thing you can control. And the attorney that I learned from, he's still my direct supervisor. His mantra was, no one works harder than us. If we lose, it's not because the other side outworked us. So that's the one thing you can control. Now, that said, I've been in a trial where something happens and I just didn't think of it. It happens, you think, how on earth did I not, add this witness to the witness list? That seems crazy. I can't believe I did that. And you can't be hard on yourself. You'll hopefully never make that mistake again. The things that, the best advice I give to other, younger lawyers at our firms, about trial, are things that I learned myself the hard way that I messed up. But those are the things that make you really good going forward. So do not be afraid of, again, push yourself, try things. Do not be afraid of making mistakes, because most people are afraid of making mistakes, and that's why they get stuck in one place and don't advance.
Thank you. Felice, what's your most proud experience, I guess, when you were at Ferris or currently as an MBA student?
I just have to say, this is amazing. I am learning a lot as well. I'd say my most proud experience would be actually getting to the point that I am at now. So I obviously switching careers in the cath lab, being on call all the time, looking at the workload. I didn't think that this was the right fit for me. I'm like, I just can't do this. And when I realized I had so much support via the resources, such as the professors, such as the academic counselors and advisors, I really came to the knowledge that I can do this. And in the midst of COVID, I am a very traditional type of student. I like to be in the classroom so that I can interact with the professors. I'm a very sociable person. And so kind of going more so towards this technology era was a big adjustment for me, but I'm so grateful that I am here. And like you said, I graduate in the spring, April of 2022. And I have a 3.93 GPA, and I have to say I owe it to not only just my efforts, but just to all of the amazing help that I've received from U of M.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, I mean, looking back at my time there at UM-Flint, I think that the thing that I'm most proud of was just being able to really kind of go back for my MBA, do it kind of while working a full-time job, and actually relocated to a different state for a job in the middle of it and still finishing it. And I think, the network that I'd kind of built just with not only the professors, but just the faculty there helped, just ease that transition. So, looking back on that, career change, moving out of the state for the first time in my life, and then, finishing that MBA in kind of a hybrid environment, that was something I was pretty proud of, and I'll always think back on. And it helped me just grow, professionally as well too, kind of managing that.
Great, thank you. Tim?
I guess I have to be honest and say, receiving the Maize and Blue Award, that was a big deal for me. It's it's the kind of thing that it's something, I'll admit this is maybe silly, but it's something I still think about, because I don't have a photographic memory. I don't have a lot of the skills that successful people do. I got the Maize and Blue Award because I worked as hard as I could possibly work, and I'm someone who very much believes that you get far in life by hustling and giving 100% every day, every opportunity that you get. And I believe that. I believe that that's what this country's about. And I think that I learned that at U of M-Flint, relatively early on in my career. So maybe no one ever gives you an award for working hard, but I want everyone to know that. I think and if you're not at the right company where your hard work is being rewarded, maybe you look someplace else, because that's how this should work. If you put your heart and soul into something, it should carry you a long way.
Thank you. Alexis, I'm gonna put you on the spot and have you ask your question.
Okay, yeah. So for all the panelists, so what do you want to do in the future? Like, what professional goals do you have for yourself right now, and what are you currently working on to reach your goals?
Felice, you want to start?
Oh man. Alexis, let me think here. Honestly, for me, my decision to go back to school was really driven by my family. I was married for 6 years, and now, 6 years later, actually 10 years later, I have 2 kids. So I really, at this point, I am driven by just making my family happy. And I feel that this field of human resources, or just the business arena in general, it gives me the flexibility and the autonomy to be there for my family, and then also work. Like I can work from home, and in the healthcare field, you can't work from home. You have to be there. I can't do CPR through Zoom. That didn't work. So, so just continuing on in this vein of making the decisions that work best for my family and for my faith. So.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, I think, as I've looked back, like on my career thus far, I've always tried to set like little goals along the way, right? I mean, first it was to get into HR, and then it was, get into more of the generalist path. And then, obviously kind of just continue to develop skill sets, certain levels that you wanted to kind of go up, lead others. As I think about kind of down the road, it's how do you, as we're all kind of growing in our careers, a lot of your early career and then through the middle part is, I had a leader once talk to me and tell me this thing around like, you're kind of taking credits, right? Like you're learning, you're taking from others and you're building yourself up. But then eventually, if you get to a spot where you're fortunate enough, you're able to kind of give those credits back, right? And being able to really kind of give to others on your experience and help them grow in their careers. And so, one of my professional goals is to be a chief HR officer of a company one day. And so I'm trying to diversify my experience to kind of build the right path to get there. But ultimately, I want to get to a spot where I can give those credits back, right? How am I investing in others? How am I helping them, get the types of opportunities that I got, or the type of just coaching and mentoring and development along my career? And so I think there's a point in time in your career that hopefully you get that opportunity to do so. And that's a goal that I have is how do you really look at kind of giving those credits back ultimately.
Thanks. Tim?
Well, my goals change periodically, and I think most people's goals should change, right? There's limbs going up as you climb the tree, right? So initially my goal was to try a case. Not many people get the opportunity to take a case to trial. We work for insurance, big insurance companies, and they only generally want senior partners to try cases. So first I wanted to try a case on my own. Then I wanted to try, a big case with a certain amount of damages at issue. My current goal is I do want to get, at some point to be the leader of my own firm or a senior manager of the firm that I'm at. I never lost, as I was talking to Sydney about, I never lost my love of business. I love the management aspect. I love learning about how the firm operates and the different, there's the billing department and records ordering, accounting. And I've come, and I love that. And in fact, the current CEO of our firm doesn't really practice as a lawyer. He's pretty much, just runs the business side of things. So getting to that level, I still want to practice, but getting into management is where I want to be.
Thank you. Felicee, what technical skills do you recommend students develop if they're interested in securing an internship or job with your organization or in your industry? Like, should they really know Excel? Should they really be good at social media? Like, what kind of skills do you recommend the students?
Definitely, as a human resources professional, currently at the site that I am, we do marketing, we kind of do accounting, we do it all. So obviously having a wide knowledge base, obviously the Excel, the Microsoft Forms is something that I was not very familiar with. Canva, those kind of resources when you are actually putting out advertisements and things of that nature. So obviously those technical skills, we did some radio ads and just knowing how to say things within 30 seconds. And I'm like, okay, I got to take that out, put that in. So just really just learning to be flexible, learning to, like I said, cast that wide net when it comes to Excel, when it comes to design. So in HR, like I said, you just never know. So just cast a wide net and just show an interest in everything.
Thanks. Michael?
Yeah, gosh, that's a really good question. And there's a lot of different ways I can go down this path. I'll kind of look at it or answer it from the lens of like where I think if somebody's looking to get an HR and kind of looking more like down the road, like what's the skill set or capabilities that I see is most lacking that could really kind of set you aside is I think it's being really good at diving into the data and storytelling. So, obviously Office Suite products, like you need to know those, right? Like most companies use them, but the thing that I've seen most people struggle with is you have an idea of what you want to go out and accomplish. How do you get the right data and put it together in the right way to tell the story in a very meaningful and impactful way to get people to do what you want them to do? Easier said than done, right? And so I think if you're going to invest in anything, and this isn't even just HR, broader business, is just that storytelling element and really being able to take data and drive direction with it is incredibly impactful. And if you can do that good, you are going to set yourself apart from many other people. And I think, just looking at from a technology standpoint, being able to mine some of that data yourself, especially if you look at like learning, different languages when it comes to like SQL or coding. I have a feeling that's where a lot of this is going to be going in the next 5 or 10 years. And so having that skill set, again, is another thing that I think will set you apart. And it's one that, you think of it more from the IT side, but I think in business in general, you're going to see a lot of areas that are just you're going to have that as like a foundational type of skill set, 5 to 10 years down the road.
Thanks. Tim?
Well, for lawyers, it's pretty simple. We write and we talk. So the things that I would say, certainly work on your writing. It's old school, but I've now started to request writing samples. Our firm didn't actually request writing samples, and I'm on the hiring committee now, and I request a writing sample because it's amazing to me, how this is probably a knock on our generation, but I think it's because of all the texting and what we do. But writing's become very informal. People have forgotten a paragraph to start with either a transition or a topic sentence, like really basic things. So pay attention to that. That's something that applies to any company you work for, even if you're not a lawyer. Being the person who is a really good writer is a great skill, and it's a lost art to some extent. Same thing with public speaking. They say that public speaking ranks ahead of death on every survey they do. People, they're literally rather die than talk in public. And so the one thing I wish I had done earlier on was, there's courses and there's public speaking workshops. There's things you can do. If you're doing a presentation, a lot of times you have we have the capstone class. I don't know where everyone ranks as far as their class rank, but when you're a senior, you have the capstone class, and you have the big presentation. Take the reins there, like offer to do a bigger part, of the speaking. Push yourself to get comfortable presenting data, like Mike said, telling a story, and capturing the attention of an audience. Because again, that's something that people aren't good at, refuse to do. And if that's something that you have in your arsenal, that's huge.
Thanks. That kind of leads us into the next question about what do you know now that you wish you knew in college, or what you would have done? I definitely should have done public speaking in college because I'm terrified of it, and I need more practice. But Felicee, do you have anything that you could add to that?
Let me think. I guess if I could give my former self some advice, yes, definitely public speaking, but then also just learning to network. It's not as bad. I said I'm a sociable person, but I'm sociable with those that I know. And so just learning to reach out. A lot of the coursework in the MBA program is teamwork based. And so just really getting to know your teammates and classmates, and learning about different cultures, and learning about different, backgrounds, which will actually help in any field that you're in, because you're not going to be around people of like cultures. You're going to be around people of different cultures. So really taking advantage of that teamwork, not just like, oh my gosh, I got to, meet up with this person at 5 and that person just say, this is an opportunity to learn about maybe their culture and just kind of learn their way of thinking. To see how it aligns, or how you can realign your thoughts and your motivations, your ethics and morals in a better way. So if I could tell myself, it's just open up even more now, than ever before, because you never know who you'll need in the future.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, so I hope this isn't like a shock to anyone. I think people are probably gonna be like, well, no duh when I say this, but I actually wish that I would have been more, back then internships were around, but I don't say they weren't like, it wasn't a requirement of graduating, and it really wasn't pushed as much. And I look back on that and I wish so bad I would have taken that more seriously, because I did do an internship, but it was more of like kind of just an easy by chance when it wasn't really in my field. It didn't help me kind of understand what I really wanted to do. And it more happened by just luck than anything else. And so I think for, getting your foot in the door and just trying to get at it, because there's a ton of students now, I mean, most of the time it's a requirement, right, of graduation of doing some type of an internship. And so I think just making the most out of those opportunities to get the experience, but then also too, just test out, is this something you really want to do a little bit, right? So that's something that I wish I would have done a little bit more when I was in. And if I would have went back, I would have given myself that. I know my brother and sister, who, I'm the oldest in my family, I have tried to ingrain that in their heads so much, and just getting that experience while you're in school. It's so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went here in 2008 as well, so there wasn't as much as there is now. I didn't really get involved till I had a job on campus, and then I started to see what the campus offered and what resources we had. So I missed out on that opportunity as well. Felicee, do you practice work-life balance? Is it important to you?
Yeah, absolutely. As I stated before, the reason why I chose to make a switch professionally or change professionally is because working in the healthcare field, everything kind of takes a back seat. If I am in the middle of somebody's having a stroke, it could be obviously those situations, and they're traumatic or unexpected events. However, I'm held there at work, and so I could be potentially missing my child's soccer game or a graduation or a birthday party. And so that is really one of the reasons why I decided to make a switch, because my work-life balance was way off kilter. And so now that I am in a different arena, I'm learning the balance, because I have my boss telling me, like, listen, you've been here 9 hours, go home. I'm like, but I have to finish this. She's like, well, you have to realize this is not a matter of life and death anymore. That paper can be faxed tomorrow. It's not a big deal. So I'm still kind of learning how to balance it. But I feel that with this career pathway that I'm journeying down now has really helped me to understand it a little bit better.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, so I kind of look at it from the lens of like, I don't really call it work-life balance. It's kind of like work-life integration is the way that I look at it. So, with just kind of the always on society that we live in today, the way that I look at it is that, a normal 40-hour Monday through Friday work week just doesn't typically exist any longer. And so it's like, how do you just find the time to balance or integrate kind of those two things? Because that's just reality. And so there's going to be some days that I'm not in the office 8 to 5, right? But I also know too, I'm probably signing on at nights or on weekends at times to get things done. And so it's just, how do you just integrate those two to balance it over that, right? Because I think trying to balance it between Monday through Friday and 8 to 5 is just not realistic anymore in the world that we live in. But you still need that balance, right? And so how do you just integrate the two is the way that I've always kind of looked at it. And just, there's going to be some times when you're just doing way more work than you normally would. And there's going to be other times it's going to be a little bit lighter. And you need to take care of yourself and find that personal time in there as well too. So it's more about just the integration is the way I look at it, rather than trying to kind of, necessarily balance it within, kind of the stereotypical work week.
Thanks. Tim?
Yeah, I want to echo what Mike said. I would embrace that change. I mean, obviously, and I see Sydney just asked that question, how companies are approaching this. There is a big shift. Law is about as resistant to change as any field. It's one of the oldest fields. They don't like technology. They don't like change. A lot of the firms are run by older dudes who like things the way they are. But that is changing, and particularly as our generation starts to take the reins. That's a good thing. So I would say utilize the time that you have in the best way that you can for you. Lawyers, we work hard. There's no two ways about it. We work very, very long hours, but I'd worked late, the night before, a couple of days ago. And then I think it was Monday was I worked Sunday. Monday was beautiful. It was 63 degrees. And so me and my wife went to the park at 3 p.m, walked our dog, and just got out, for a couple hours, and then, made up the time later. So I think, you are going to work. I think I work more now working from home than I did before, just because, it's kind of, your computer's always there. It's hard to pull yourself away, but it's something that we all need to recognize. Like we said, not everything's life and death. Learn where to put your time, what things really are crucial, and when to pull back and go walk your dog. I think that's healthy, and that's what's gonna, that's what's gonna keep you mentally healthy and more sharp in the long term.
Thanks. Felicee, yeah, Sydney asked the question about what's your company doing in terms of working from home? Did they shift back to working on site, or what are they doing?
Primarily, like I said, we work in manufacturing. However, like I say, in the professional arena, like the HR, the office, is kind of like a hybrid. You can work from home. Like I work from home on Wednesdays, and then other days, if I need to be here with my family. Prior to me stepping on the campus or into the organization, I know that they were pretty much working from home because of COVID. But since then, everybody has kind of trickled back in. And I think part of the reason is that we love our culture. We love going in and interacting with everybody. Working from home is just not the same. It's really definitely hard to, like Timothy said, it's hard to have that balance because you always have your computer there. So you find yourself overworking when you are working from home. But it's just something about that interaction that my organization has, that a lot of us just opt to go into the office, but you do actually have the option to also work from home. So I am noticing more so of a trend of a hybrid setting versus, always in the office.
Thanks. Michael?
Yeah, so we're kind of in the same approach too, where we're kind of in a hybrid. Most roles, at least from like an office perspective, are working. I mean, obviously I'm out of my house here today. I think early part of next year, we're looking at moving to kind of more of that flexible hybrid, environment where there's going to be probably a couple of days of the week we'll have people in the office, and then, majority that it's flexible, that employees can choose to work either from home or from the office. I think the one thing though that we've tried to kind of always keep in mind too is and Felicee touched on this, that the culture, aspect of just like being in person is something that I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out over the next 12 to 24 months, where you have some companies that are saying we're going to always work remote. And I think, how they're going to continue to grow that culture or how that changes will be interesting. The other thing too is for most industries, like especially like I work for Domino's, a lot of our employees are frontline team members. They don't get the option of being able to work at home. And so, like my role exists because people are in stores, we say making, baking, and taking. And so like, there's one thing there too, that you also need to kind of balance that as well. And, I exist to serve those people. So yeah, I think if COVID wasn't here, we're going to obviously be wanting to get back in the office. And I think that'll be something that it's just, how do you balance that with a lot of those organizations where you have frontline team members that just don't have that option. And you need to be conscious of those individuals. I think a lot of times people forget about that.
Great. So we're almost out of time. I just want to open up the floor for questions. Any last questions for the panelists?
I have one thought that Michael triggered, and I just couldn't get it in then. And it's a little trivial, but you had mentioned telling the story. And there's some interesting research about how a thought carries if you tell a story with it. So I always try to tell stories in my class about my cases and this and that. And if you are in an interview, don't make it a long story, but if you can connect something with a story of your own, or if you can try to anticipate questions. People anticipate questions and they go online to look for the canned answers. The Michaels of the world know what the canned answers are. The Tims know what the canned answers are too. Try to personalize your interview with one or two stories about yourself, your experience. It makes information stick more.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you,
so
Michael.
I'm gonna let the panelists give some last minute advice, but I wanted to ask if those that have their cameras off minded putting themselves on camera for a screenshot. We'd like to share the participants on social media. So if you don't mind, you don't have to, but if you could put your camera on so Alexis can take a screenshot, that'd be great. Felicee, do you have any last minute advice?
I would just say, just hang on in there. Don't give up. And I always think of it like you step into the class and you look at the syllabus and it's like death staring you in the face. You're like, how in the heck am I going to get through this? Just take it one assignment, one exam at a time. Just tap into those resources that we mentioned earlier. You have a professor there for a reason to help kind of navigate you through the course. Also, don't be afraid to reach out to your academic advisors should you have any questions or concerns. And then also just stay involved on the campus. If there are programs or activities that they are hosting, just try to make yourself known on the campus, because you just never know where your next opportunity will arise.
Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, I think, the only thing I'd add would just be use the alumni network, use this network. I mean, just get out there on LinkedIn, really leverage that, and just get connected, right? If you don't ask or you don't reach out, the answer is always going to be no. So, I think don't be afraid to put yourself out there and, leverage that network, because it's a powerful tool.
Tim?
Yeah, I would just say, kind of a combination of what everyone already just said. Just, be kind to people, take one day at a time, and, make sure you do have, some balance in your life. I mean, these are stressful times. Everyone's got a lot they're looking forward to doing once the world reopens. You've got exams, you have jobs, you have so many different things that are vying for your attention. But, again, just prioritize, you only have so many hours in a day, and make sure you're sleeping and you're taking care of your mental health. And so many things that you're worried about now will take care of themselves if you just stay the course and work hard and take care of yourself.
Anna?
Yep.
Two quick things. My mind is just racing. One is be careful on social media. Employers are looking at social media. They can look at social media. They can't see that you're a minority person on social media and then discriminate against you on that basis. But if you're a party animal, if you're chugging, if you're naked, yes, they can use that. So one caveat for anybody who's going into HR, well, Michael already knows that, is try not to have your own staff go to social media. The people who are going to be interviewing and hiring, don't have them go to social media so they can't see minority status. They can't see sex, weight, age. Have an independent agency do that and give them the parameters that we don't want to know about anything except drinking, drugs, et cetera, et cetera. That's one thing to remember. And the last thing I want to say is we have a new dean coming in. He is, I don't know what to say, heads above anyone I was on the search committee, heads above. And take a minute, students, to go in and introduce yourself to the dean. Everybody's afraid to introduce themselves to the dean. He's going to be very receptive. He's very DEI oriented, I might mention, but he is going to be, I think he's going to be the greatest dean we've ever had. So introduce yourself. You never know when a dean, you might wind up asking him something or doing something for him, and maybe he can help you later with a reference from a dean rather than a professor. Go for it.
Thank you, Francine. Yep, and Michael also touched on staying connected to alumni. If you want to connect with our company page on LinkedIn, and then there's a student alumni group where students and alumni can interact with each other. We have about 96 members. Alexis is putting it in the chat right now, so students can use that to look for jobs and internships that alumni are posting. And then alumni are offering services like resume reviews and things like that. So make sure you check out that group. And with that, we're done with the panel. Oh,
I need to
Alexis.
get a picture because everybody was talking and like
okay.
there's always like one person blinking or I tried. So
We have to pose for this, huh?
we gotta pose, you know, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right. So I'll count down 1, 2, 3, and then when I hit 3, do not move. Don't make a silly face.
Okay.
So, okay, 1, 2, 3. Cool, got it.
Yeah, thanks. All right, guys. Have a great day, and thank the panelists for joining us today with the great career and college advice. So you guys have a good day.
Yeah, thank you guys very
Thanks,
much. It's
everybody.
very informative.
Bye, good luck with the rest of the
Thanks, everyone.
semester.
Go
Best of
blue.
luck.
Woo!
Yeah.
Thanks for putting it together, Anna. It was great.
No problem.